Um, it's it's kind of good because it's for anybody, and you don't have to have a specific level of I've studied Buddhism, or I've studied this, or I've studied that. It's nothing to do with that. We're here as spirits in the third dimension. This is what we're doing, and so it doesn't really matter. It's actually pretty accessible for everyone. That for me, that means we're not going to be looking at this from an egoic perspective. We're not going to be running from our egos or running with our egos on this. This is about, from a spiritual perspective, what are we doing here? And let's get some clarification on that, because a lot of the time I think that we get so involved in our egos that we forget that we're actually on a spiritual journey, for lack of a better word. The spirit is the being, or the truth of us, our origin in terms of, we're here in these little meat jackets in this life, and we are spirits in bodies. That's what we're doing here. And we forget that a lot. So we work a lot from our egos because that's the hologram. And that's what we've created. And that's what we understand a lot more than we understand the spirit. We're taught the hologram far more than we're taught the spirit. So when we're interested in the spirit, we actually have to seek out answers, and start to look at things from a much different perspective. And again, if we want to build the new, we can't do that from ego. We can only do that from the spirit. And a lot of the time, it's going back to the ancient teachings of no separation, for example. Because when we think we're separate from somebody else, that's the ego. That's the hologram. When we begin to understand that we are all connected on every level possible, that's the spirit. I decided to write the seminar about fear because I'm listening to people, and I'm listening to a lot of people talking about their fears. Humanity's kind of at a crossroads, and I think that most people know that. A lot of people are afraid of the weather patterns changing, climate change, the economy, personal finances, jobs, you name it. We're afraid of all sorts of things. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, a lot of those fears are not real. And we give a lot of our power, our strength, our energy, and our focus to fears, when really what we're supposed to be giving our power to is the calmness, because that's what's going to see us through the upcoming times. And I think the more people that understand that, and understand it on an intellectual basis as well as a spiritual basis, then the more our chances are of not only getting through this time less scathed, but also with a greater power surrounding us, within us, and connecting all of us. What we're actually afraid of, in truth, is each other. We're afraid of judgments. We're afraid of ridicule. We're afraid of not measuring up. That's all ego. It makes no sense. From a spiritual perspective, we should be trying new things and trying to get as close to our path as possible, and be accepting of our path and accepting of each other, because we're all just spirits on journeys, and that's as simple as it gets. The gap space is the darkness. That's what it is. So we begin one place, and then we're okay, and then we get into this gap space and we're not okay, and then we come out of the gap space and we're okay again. That gap space can be very devastating for people, and I think that there's a million and one things that can put us in there. But the thing is to recognize what it is, and to know that we we have a lot of support, and to really strengthen the bond with our spirit and our creator during that time is going to make the world of difference, because it really is a feeling of disconnect when we're in the gap space. Well, of course, the ideas are esoteric and philosophical. Of course they are. However, I think what's different about this is that there's some tangible things that we can all be doing that are going to make us feel maybe a little bit more connected. And I think that a lot of the time we run with these philosophies, but we don't really know how to live them. And spew them onto other people and say, here, you should be living this way. But unfortunately, we're not living that way. So this would actually help people, I think, to put things more into perspective. And, well, here's some tangible things that we can be doing to try to connect with others, to try to understand and have a bit more empathy, a bit more compassion, a bit more peacefulness in general, and certainly in our own lives and within our own being. When we start to listen to the spirit again, everything changes. It gets easier. And I think that that's something that people don't remember. When we're connected, it's easier.